right, today we are going to be adding and subtracting fraction word problems, and we're going to be using Writer to solve. All right, this is on slide 16. Randy took his bird to the vet. The vet recorded Tweety's weight as 1 3/10 pounds. The vet said that last year Tweety weighed 4/10 pounds more. How much did Tweety weigh last year? So we're going to start with R, read and annotate the question. We're going to look at the first sentence. Randy took his bird to the vet. Is that important? No. The vet recorded Tweety's weight as 1 3/10 pounds. That is important. The vet said that last year Tweety weighed 4/10 pounds more. Is anything in that sentence important? Yeah, last year Tweety weighed 4/10 pounds more. And then we always underline our question. How much did Tweety weigh? If you want to try and solve this problem and then check back with the video, that is awesome. If that's what you decide to do, go ahead and pause the video. If you want to do it with me, that's fine too. Let's keep going. Now we're going to identify a strategy. So we have to decide, are we going to add, subtract, multiply, divide, or compare? So the vet recorded Tweety's weight as 1 3/10 pounds. Last year, Tweety weighed 4/10 pounds more. How much did Tweety weigh last year? So for me, I think it might be easier to start with the equation as I'm thinking this through. We know we have to figure out how much Tweety weighed last year. So how are we going to get how much the bird weighed last year? This year it weighs 1 3/10 pounds, and last year it weighed 4/10 pounds more. So that tells us that we have to what? We have to put them together. 1 3/10 pounds and 4/10 pounds. If we put them together, we are adding. So you're going to say, that equals how much Tweety weighs. So you're going to write, I chose addition because, and then you're going to talk about why did we choose addition. Go ahead and pause the video while you write that in your slide. Also make sure that you read and annotate the slide. So on D, draw a model. You're going to add 1 3/10 plus 4/10. You can use your fraction pieces, either that you have as manipulatives or online, or you can use the composing to add together the fractions and the whole numbers. Go ahead and pause the video and insert your picture here. Now we're going to solve the equation. 1 3/10 plus 4/10 equals, and you're going to write the answer next to it. Go ahead and pause the video while you do that. Now we're going to evaluate. Why is my answer reasonable? All right, well, the answer that you got, again, I'm going to shade it in blue. That's the answer that you got. Is a reasonable weight that Tweety weighed last year because, and then you're going to finish the sentence and explain why this makes sense for how much the bird weighed last year. Okay, go ahead and pause your video. So now we know when we respond and answer the question, we're going to use the words from the question. How much did Tweety weigh last year? So if we use the sentence then. Last year, Tweety weighed, and then you're going to finish the sentence. And you're done with that question. Good job. Make sure you write it in your slide, and then we'll go to the next question that we're going to work on together. All right, this question is on slide 20 and 21. Let's read it together. Remember, if you want to pause the video and try and solve it yourself first and then check back in with me for the answer, that's fine. Cynthia is making fruit punch for a party. After looking at the recipe, she knows that she needs to mix 4 5/8 gallons of fruit juice concentrate with 3 7/8 gallons of water. Just as she is about to get started, she realizes that she only has an 8-gallon container to use for mixing. Will this container be big enough to hold the ingredients? If not, how much punch will not be able to fit into the container? So this is a really long one. So we're going to go through and read it again and decide, what do we need to read and annotate? Cynthia is making fruit punch for a party, period. Is there anything in that sentence we need to annotate? Nope. After looking at the recipe, anything in that phrase we need to annotate? No. She knows she needs to mix 4 5/8 gallons of fruit juice concentrate. We need to know that she has 4 5/8 gallons of fruit juice with 3 7/8 gallons of water. 3 7/8 gallons of water. Just as she's about to get started, not important, she realizes that she only has an 8-gallon container to use for mixing. Is that something that we need to know? Yeah, it is. She only has an 8-gallon container for mixing. Because we want to know, will this container be big enough to hold the ingredients? So that is a question that we're being asked. But look, there's not just one question, there's 2 questions. If not, so if we answer no to the blue underline question, we have to say, how much punch will not be able to fit into the container? Not is very important. How much punch will not be able to fit into the container? So when we respond, we're going to have to be talking about how much is not going to fit. All right, now that we've talked through that, hopefully this one will be easier. We have to identify a strategy. So she's baking punch. And then we have to know if the container is big enough. So right there, we know this is a 2-step problem. She has to make the punch and then she has to fit it into the container. 2 steps. So we're going to actually be choosing 2 operations. What do you think we're going to be doing first? She has the fruit juice and the water. What are we going to be doing with these 2 amounts? We're going to add, subtract, multiply, divide, or compare. We're going to be putting them together. So we're going to choose to add. So go ahead and write, I chose addition because. And then explain, why did you choose to add these amounts together? Pause the video while you do that. So we have the fruit juice, 4 5/10 gallons of fruit juice, and 3 7/8 gallons of water. We're putting them together, and we have to add. Then, if we want to see, we're going to get an amount. So we're going to get the punch. I'm going to put a P there for punch. All right, once we have the punch, how do we know if it's going to fit into an 8-gallon container for mixing? Well, we have to know, is it Is the punch more or less than 8 gallons? That is comparing. So next we're going to write, I chose comparing because. Now, if some of you chose subtraction, that is also okay, because if you took the 8-gallon container and took away the punch, you would get how much it does not fit. So I'm going to put an N for not. Does not fit. So you could also say I chose subtraction. But if you just looked at it and you said, well, I know if this is bigger or if this is bigger, that's also fine. Make sure you have that written in your slide. If not, pause the video. We're going to go on. Then you're going to D, draw a model. So you're going to do 4 5/8 plus 3 7/8. You can either use composing, or you can use your fraction strips and enter in a picture. Go ahead and do that. Then you're going to solve the equation down here. When you're solving the equation, you can use what we did over here and just put in numbers for the variables P and N. Pause the video while you do that. So now we're going to evaluate. Is my answer reasonable? So the amount that we got, I'm going to put a yellow dot there. That could also be the N that we got on the previous slide, okay? That's how much did not fit in the container. Is it reasonable that this amount did not fit in the container? So go ahead and write, this amount is a reasonable amount to not fit in the 8-gallon container because, and explain why you think, yeah, this amount definitely could be left over if we put all of this into the 8-gallon container. Pause the video while you do that. And lastly, we are going to R, respond. We're going to answer the question. So you should be starting with either yes or no. Will this container be big enough to hold the ingredients? Yes or no. We know that no, it is not big enough to hold all the ingredients. So I literally used the words from the question. No, the container is not big enough to hold all the ingredients. And now we're going to say, okay, how much punch will not fit in the container? And you can finish it up by saying, punch will not fit in the container. Go ahead and make sure you have all of that written in your slides. And then we'll go on to the next question. This is the last question we're going to do today on this video. This is for slides 23 and 24 in your slide deck. Mr. Dillon bought a large melon. He cut a piece that weighed 1 1/8 pounds and gave it to his neighbor. The remaining piece he cut in half. If each of these pieces weighed 6/8 pounds, how much did the whole melon weigh? Okay, so let's read and annotate the question. Is it important that we know that Mr. Dillon bought a large melon? Yeah. We can highlight that if you want. If you don't highlight it, I understand why you wouldn't. It doesn't have a number in it, but it is important that we know that. He cut a piece that weighed 1 1/8 pounds. Is that important? Yes. Yes, it is. And gave it to his neighbor. Is it important that he gave it to his neighbor? Not really. The remaining piece he cut in half. Is that important? Yes. If each of these pieces weighed 6/8 pounds, that is also important. How much did the whole melon weigh? We're going to underline that because that is the question. So our goal here is to figure out how much the whole large melon weighed. So for me, this can be a tricky question. Sometimes I like to draw it out first so that I know what is happening. So I'm going to draw a watermelon because that's what I pictured. I guess it could be a cantaloupe or any other kind of melon, but in my mind it was watermelon. He bought this large melon. He cut a piece that weighed 1 1/8 pounds. Can we cut off a piece of this? You sure can. See, this is 1 1/8 pounds. Okay, and he gave it to his neighbor. This was for his neighbor. Okay, and then the remaining piece, that's this, he cut in half. Okie dokie, let's cut that in half. And each of those pieces were 6/8 pounds. How much did the whole melon weigh? So now that we see this picture, can we think, oh, I can identify a strategy. How am I going to figure out how much the whole melon weighs? Am I going to add these together? Am I going to subtract the pieces? Am I going to compare the pieces? Yeah, if we just said add, you're correct. We have to add all of these pieces together. The part he gave to his neighbor and the 2 halves that he kept for himself. So go ahead and write, I chose addition because. And then make sure you have all of this so far in your slide. All right, so now we're going to work on the equations. Can you write this as an equation? Of course you can. Go ahead and write that. Pause the video while you do that. So we know that 1 1/8 that he gave to his neighbor plus the 6/8 and the 6/8 that he had is going to equal the whole melon. Make sure you have a variable. Then you're going to solve the equation over here by using the same equation, but instead of writing a variable, you're going to write the answer that you got. If you also need to, you can put a picture of your fraction pieces here that you use to add together. Pause the video while you finish this slide. When you unpause the video, we'll be on the next slide. All right, so now we're going to evaluate. Is my answer reasonable? So here is the amount that we got for the entire melon. That's the M that we had. Is this a reasonable amount for the entire melon? So is this a reasonable amount for the entire melon because, and then in your own words, finish the sentence based on what we learned in the problem and in our picture of the melon that we drew on the previous slide. Pause the video while you do that. And lastly, we're going to answer, how much did the whole melon weigh? Write that as a sentence. I'm using the words from the question. The whole melon weighed pounds. Once you're done with these slides, you are finished with your work for me for today. I hope you enjoy your asynchronous day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.